Very well, I'll leave it to you, fellow Taoist Lu. Songzi Song cupped his fists, his expression returning to normal. Elder Pang sneered inwardly, thinking to himself, even if Songzi Song, equipped with the divine demon armor, can make it to the 9th step, how far could this Lu fellow possibly go? Wang Lin glanced at the stone formation. Ordinarily, he wouldn't have stepped forward, but earlier, he had seen the madness in Songzi Song's eyes, something that stirred his own curiosity. Though this place was dangerous, anything that could ignite such fervor in Songzi Song must be of immense value. If none could enter, Songzi Song likely wouldn't let anyone leave. Though Wang Lin had secretly made preparations for such an outcome, he was more intrigued by what exactly could drive Songzi Song to such lengths. I ask fellow Daoist Zhao for your assistance in activating the formation. Wang Lin cupped his fist toward the elder in blue robes. He was certain she hadn't used her full strength before. Taking advantage of Songzi Song's urgency, she had forced him to go in alone and suffer injury. They haven't even found the treasure, yet they've already begun internal strife, weakening one another. If I want to remain in this muddy water, I have no choice but to follow suit. Wang Lin remained expressionless, betraying nothing of his thoughts. The elder in blue robes raised her right hand and waved it forward. A restriction seal instantly landed upon the stone, turning it translucent with rippling waves across its surface. Wang Lin turned and walked several steps toward the stone, lifting his foot and stepping inside. No one noticed that at the instant the ripples swelled around him, a formless seal appeared in his right hand. He quietly integrated the seal into the formation without drawing attention. The moment he entered, Wang Lin was immediately struck by an overwhelming pressure converging from all directions, especially from the front, where the intensity was even fiercer. He moved slowly, one step at a time. Step 1. Step 2. Step 3. By the 3rd step, he clearly felt the crushing force around him become almost unimaginable. The resistance ahead howled like raging winds, as if countless mountains were pressing down to stop him. With each additional step, the pressure doubled, making it exponentially more difficult to proceed. A normal cultivator's physical body would crumble under such strain. But Wang Lin possessed the ancient god physique. He could ignore this kind of pressure. Still, his face turned extremely pale, and he paused after the 3rd step to practice a breathing technique. After a brief recovery, he lifted his foot again. Step 4. Step 5. Step 6. As his 6th step landed, the pressure surged to cataclysmic levels. It felt like countless hands wrapping around his body, with endless divine powers crashing from the front, as if he were a lone boat in a raging sea. Blood had already drained from Wang Lin's face. His body trembled slightly, on the verge of retreating, but in that instant, resistance also rose behind him, preventing him from stepping back. Outside the stone, the elder in blue robes fixed her gaze on Wang Lin, lost in thought. The formation is changing. Songzi Song's brows furrowed as he stared at Wang Lin. He reflected on the pressure he had felt at the 6th step, falling into deep silence. Elder Pang sneered even harder inside. I overestimated him. He might have cultivation, but no mental fortitude. If he sustains too severe an injury here, he'll lose the right to proceed. Wang Lin lingered at the 6th step for a long time before finally taking the 7th. The moment it landed, he coughed up a mouthful of blood. Still, he did not retreat and stepped forward again 8th step. Upon stepping down, a sound like bones being crushed echoed from within his body. Blood mist sprayed out, staining his once white robes a deep crimson. This sight visibly moved Songzi Song. He stepped forward, eyes sharp like lightning, scanning Wang Lin intently. The elder in blue robes also rose to her feet, her expression turning grave. As for Elder Pang, his sneer deepened further. Within the stone, Wang Lin's body looked nearly twisted. Yet he lifted his right foot, and as a low roar echoed faintly from within the stone, he took the 9th step. With a thunderous bang, his body shuddered violently. Veins bulged across his face, and his eyes filled with blood, but he stood his ground. Songzi Song's spirit shook. He called out in a low voice, fellow Taoist Lu, just one more step. The elder in blue robes showed a complex expression. She studied Wang Lin closely for a long time, but couldn't detect even a trace of deception. Everything was frighteningly real. The formation actually changed at this moment. Even if he wanted to return now, he couldn't. Songzi Song, fellow Taoist Zhao, came Wang Lin's weak voice from inside the stone. I've done all I can. If I'm gravely injured, then you. Rest assured, fellow Taoist Lu. I stand by every promise I made. Songzi Song's voice echoed firmly. Wang Lin, hidden within the mountain rocks, seemed to hesitate for a moment. But soon, he lifted his right foot and took the 10th step forward. The moment his foot landed, the entire mountain range erupted in a deafening roar, shaking violently. Large rocks tumbled down from the mountain, and the fierce beasts hidden in the fog above the mountains were startled. The 9-step heaven-sealing formation collapsed. Wang Lin's body spat out blood once again, and he was struck by a powerful force, sending him flying backward. His body was hurled back, and Elder Songzi's eyes flashed. He immediately stepped forward, raising his right hand and placing it directly on Wang Lin's back. At the moment his right hand touched Wang Lin, Elder Songzi's primordial energy and divine sense surged into Wang Lin's body. They swiftly circled inside and then retreated. In front of the elder in the blue robe, he couldn't secretly strike a fatal blow. If he did, it would certainly arouse her high vigilance, bringing unnecessary trouble for their journey ahead. His purpose was to test whether the man named Lu was truly heavily wounded. Now that he had his answer, he naturally wouldn't bother with someone who was no longer a threat due to their injuries. At that moment, the roar of a beast suddenly echoed through the air, as a hawk-like fierce beast burst out from the fog of the mountains, charging toward them. Elder Songzi grabbed Wang Lin and stepped into the passage that appeared after the formation collapsed. Elder Pang and the elder in the blue robe followed closely behind, swiftly entering the passage. They traveled through the passage for quite some time. After the beast's roars faded, they finally came to a halt. Elder Songzi lowered Wang Lin to the ground, his expression filled with emotion. He cupped his hands and said, "Brother Lu broke the formation despite his heavy injuries. This matter will be engraved in my heart." Wang Lin's face was pale, with blood at the corner of his mouth. He waved his hand and smiled bitterly, saying, "The stone formation is quite mysterious. After I took the 6th step, I found resistance behind me. I could only move forward. No matter what, Brother Lu should be credited for entering here first." Elder Songzi said earnestly, repeatedly cupping his hands. Upon seeing Wang Lin's exhaustion, he quickly took out a pill and handed it to him. "Brother Lu, take the time to heal. Once you're somewhat recovered, we can continue our journey." Wang Lin remained silent for a moment, then nodded bitterly. He took the pill but didn't swallow it. Instead, he took out his own pill and placed it in his mouth, closing his eyes to meditate. Elder Pang's eyes flickered with coldness, but at that moment, Elder Songzi glanced at him and shook his head slightly. Time passed slowly. Soon, Wang Lin opened his eyes, stood up, and hoarsely said, "My injuries won't heal in the short term. Let's move forward." Elder Songzi glanced at Wang Lin and nodded. The elder in the blue robe sighed inwardly but said nothing. The group moved forward through the passage. It was eerily quiet, only the sound of footsteps echoing. After a while, a light appeared in the distance. Elder Songzi suppressed his excitement and hurried toward it. The light marked the exit. Standing there, Elder Songzi looked ahead and laughed loudly. Ahead was a vast, continuous valley, with plants and trees covering the land, releasing a refreshing fragrance. A single breath of it made one feel completely at ease. Beyond the valley stood a mountain range resembling a city wall. The mountain range was circular, towering high and isolating the inner area from the outside world. Once we pass that mountain range, we will be inside. Simamo's cave mansion is not beyond the mountain, but rather within a valley ahead, Elder Songzi said with a hearty laugh. He moved forward at great speed, the elder in the blue robe beside him as they hurried onward. Wang Lin, pale-faced, his multicolored aura even more dazzling, took a deep breath and followed. Elder Pang, his heart cold with a sneer, stayed close behind Wang Lin. Soon, under Elder Songzi's guidance, the four arrived at a valley. Entering the valley, they immediately saw a cave mansion ahead. The cave mansion's stone walls were covered in grass, clearly abandoned for a long time. Inside, it was small, with only 3 stone rooms. The floor was messy, with many scattered pills, most of which had already crumbled to dust upon the slightest touch. Elder Songzi's mind seemed elsewhere as he looked at the elder in the blue robe and said, "I won't take anything from here. Everything is either Zhao Daoist or Lu Daoist belongings." The elder in the blue robe scanned with her divine sense and shook her head. "Lu Daoist contributed greatly before. How could I take anything? Everything belongs to Lu Daoist." Wang Lin looked around, sighed lightly, and cupped his hands. "I can't continue with both of you. This place seems quiet, suitable for healing. Brother Lu, you're severely wounded. Stay here and recover. When I return with Zhao Daoist, I will keep my promise and deliver everything to you. We'll leave together afterward," Elder Songzi said with a smile on his face. "Thank you." Wang Lin nodded. "Although it's quiet here, it's still dangerous. There may be fierce beasts. Pang Daoist, I have a request. Elder Songzi pondered for a moment before looking at Elder Pang. If Brother Lu stays here alone to heal, I'm worried about his safety. I asked Pang Daoist to protect him while we're gone. Whatever we acquire, we'll share with you as a token of gratitude. How does that sound? Elder Pang's eyes flashed, and he smiled. That's only right. What's the matter? Is Daoist Lu dissatisfied? Elder Songzi's expression darkened as he looked at Wang Lin. Wang Lin remained silent. Since Daoist Lu has agreed, then I will have to trouble Daoist Pang, Elder Songzi said, glancing at the elder in blue robes. The two turned and left the cave mansion, swiftly heading toward the distant mountain range that loomed like a wall. Just before they left, the elder in blue robes shot a glance at Wang Lin. Similarly, Elder Songzi cast a brief look at the Pang elder. After they left, the Pang elder's face twisted into a sinister smile as he stared at Wang Lin. Twisting the ring on his hand, he slowly spoke. Daoist Lu, continue with your breathing technique. I will ensure your safety and guard you. After speaking, his divine sense audaciously swept over Wang Lin's body. After confirming Wang Lin's injuries, he did not even spare him a glance and began rummaging through the cave mansion. Wang Lin closed his eyes, ignoring the Pang elder. As time passed, the Pang elder searched 3 stone chambers, his face revealing an expression of ecstatic joy. He returned to where Wang Lin was and stared at him coldly, suddenly laughing. Daoist Lu, I remember you once said something. Wang Lin opened his eyes, his gaze calm as he stared at the Pang elder. Seeing Wang Lin's tranquil gaze, the Pang elder's eyes narrowed, but he quickly regained his composure, his voice dripping with malice. You once warned me to speak cautiously, that if words were carelessly spoken, it could lead to deadly consequences. Wang Lin's divine sense remained steady, and he spoke slowly. Indeed, I said that. And I still say it now. If words are carelessly spoken, it could lead to deadly consequences. The Pang elder burst into wild laughter, his face contorting into a hideous mask. His eyes turned icy as he looked at Wang Lin. If this was before you were injured, I would indeed have been wary of you. But now, I'm eager to see who will suffer the fatal consequences between us. His eyes flashed, and he raised his right hand to strike at Wang Lin. The reason he had waited until now to act was to ensure that Elder Songzi and the elder in blue robes had left far enough away, avoiding detection by the elder in blue robes. Wang Lin's eyes remained as calm as still water. The instant the Pang elder's right hand was about to strike, Wang Lin's eyes flashed with cold light. His left hand shot up like lightning and grabbed the Pang elder's right hand, crushing it with a powerful grip. The sound of cracking filled the air, and the Pang elder's pupils contracted as excruciating pain surged through him. Yet, the terror he felt in his heart made the pain seem trivial. You. The Pang elder instantly retreated, about to unleash his divine ability. But just then, Wang Lin's body flickered and charged forward. With a swing of his clenched right fist, an overwhelming force howled through the air. The Pang elder was too close to Wang Lin, unable to dodge in time. With a deafening boom, Wang Lin's right fist landed squarely on the Pang elder's chest. Blood spewed from the Pang elder's mouth, his eyes filled with disbelief. His physical body exploded into a bloody mess, and his nascent soul screamed as it fled in terror. He was frightened. He had never imagined that the person before him was not injured. As he tried to flee, Wang Lin spun around, his right hand raised. A sword materialized in his hand, an iron sword, and without hesitation, he swung it down. The sword light flashed, and with a scream, the Pang elder's nascent soul split in two. With a wave of Wang Lin's sleeve, he caught the nascent soul and squeezed it in his hand, immediately destroying half of it. The broken essence rapidly dissolved into primordial energy, and before it could dissipate, Wang Lin opened his mouth and devoured it. The remaining half of the nascent soul, almost transparent, trembled in Wang Lin's grasp, unable to escape as the iron sword pointed at it. The whole process took mere moments, Wang Lin's action swift and deadly. His strike was precise, catching the Pang elder completely off guard. The elder's divine abilities and magical artifacts never had a chance to manifest. Open your storage dimension, and I won't kill you. Wang Lin's gaze was icy as he spoke with a cold, oppressive tone. The Pang elder's nascent soul was extremely weak, and he now felt the signs of dissolution. Wang Lin, in his eyes, had become an overwhelming force beyond belief. Unsure whether Wang Lin's words were true, the Pang elder realized that refusing would mean certain death, but complying offered a slim chance of survival. He gritted his teeth and reluctantly opened his storage dimension. Wang Lin swung his iron sword, severing the link between the Pang elder and his storage dimension. He immediately seized all the items from within. He then turned his cold gaze back to the elder's nascent soul, a flash of killing intent in his eyes. "You promised not to kill me," the Pang elder's nascent soul screamed in panic. Wang Lin sneered, raising his right hand. He forcibly used his divine ability to search through the Pang elder's memories while the nascent soul was still weak. Moments later, he sealed the elder's surviving nascent soul into his storage dimension. Wang Lin had no intention of killing the elder at this moment. If the elder's death alerted Elder Songzi, it would spoil Wang Lin's plans. This person is closely connected with Elder Songzi. He might even have a life slip in Songzi's possession. If he dies, Elder Songzi will sense it immediately. Wang Lin wasn't entirely sure of this, as there had been no indication of it in the Pang elder's memories, but he always preferred to err on the side of caution. Better to believe it was true than risk it. After calculating the time, Wang Lin calmly opened his storage dimension and began searching through the items of Elder Pang, who was a shattered Nirvana cultivator. Among the treasures, there were numerous immortal jade pieces, totaling several 100,000 in value. Especially valuable were the primordial crystals, with over 50 to 60,000 of them. Apart from these, there was a vast collection of herbs and pill formulas, clearly indicating that Elder Pang had prepared extensively for this journey. However, these were secondary. Wang Lin's main focus was the jade slip. Upon examining it, he found 2 maps and a set of instructions for leaving this place. Both maps were related to the 7-colored realm, with marked routes and locations, including some fierce beasts that could be fed immortal jade to harvest primordial crystals. The maps were highly detailed. Unfortunately, according to Wang Lin's memory, even Elder Pang didn't fully understand the true purpose of Songzi Song, only knowing that it was the site of a seal that imprisoned the souls of many fierce beasts. Beyond that, Wang Lin also gleaned some additional information about the 7-colored realm from his memories. After thinking for a moment, Wang Lin continued to search through the storage dimension, which contained the cave mansion Elder Pang had just explored. Among the items, he discovered many more pills, but what caught his attention was a short sword. This sword was embedded in the bone of a beast in the 3rd stone chamber. With a wave of his hand, silver light flashed, and the sword appeared in Wang Lin's grip. Elder Pang had just acquired it and hadn't had the time to examine it carefully before returning it to Wang Lin. Wang Lin scanned the short sword with his divine sense and detected an unusual aura. It felt somewhat familiar, but he couldn't quite place it. There was also a seal on the sword, meaning its true power could not be revealed unless the seal was broken. After a brief moment of contemplation, Wang Lin entered the 3rd stone chamber. His gaze immediately landed on the beast bone on the ground. The bone was not large, about the size of a person, and resembled that of a deer. It was pitch black, and most of it had already turned to dust. Upon closer inspection, Wang Lin realized the dust was freshly formed, clearly the result of Elder Pang taking the sword. Staring at the bone, Wang Lin frowned. Something felt off. Why would a deer bone appear in this cave mansion? Furthermore, the short sword had already shown signs of being a rare item before the seal was broken. If it were to be unsealed, its power would undoubtedly be unimaginable. Yet, it had been embedded in the deer's body and left in the stone chamber. Since this is not Simamo's cave mansion, whose could it be? Wang Lin had already discovered from Elder Pang's memories that this was not Simamo's cave mansion. Songzi Song had no intention of bringing him to the true location. This was simply a place that Songzi Song had casually found. Sima Mo did indeed have a cave mansion here, but the true location was not this one. Wang Lin now knew where it was. Gazing at the beast bone, Wang Lin fell into deep thought. After a long while, he turned and exited the stone chamber, with little to go on. He couldn't analyze this further, so he stored the short sword away and prepared to leave. Suddenly, he paused, as though recalling something. Looking down, he spotted a ring in the corner, amidst a pile of flesh and blood. According to Elder Pang's memories, this ring was the best magical artifact he possessed. It had been obtained from the 7-colored realm, but he never had the chance to use it before Wang Lin instantly killed him. Wang Lin reached out with his right hand, and the ring flew into his grasp. Wiping off the blood, he scanned it with his divine sense, his expression slightly shifting. The ring also had a seal, a 9-layer seal. Elder Pang had broken through 7 layers, gaining partial control over the ring, and the 8th layer had been mostly unlocked. Removing the residual divine sense, Wang Lin left his own mark and examined the seal. With his skill and restrictions, breaking it wasn't difficult. He made a hand gesture, and a restriction appeared, falling onto the ring. A series of booming sounds echoed as the broken 8th layer of the seal shattered completely. The ring emitted a 5-colored glow, instantly transforming into 5 long rainbows that surrounded Wang Lin. These 5 rainbows formed a tight protective barrier, preventing any divine abilities from approaching. If Elder Pang had broken through the 8th layer before, killing him wouldn't have been so quick, Wang Lin thought, and the 5 rainbows dissipated, merging back into the ring, which Wang Lin stored away. Taking a deep breath, his gaze shifted to the outside of the cave mansion. His eyes gleamed with cold light as his body flickered, and he darted out, heading toward the distance. As he sped along, Wang Lin kept his divine sense close, using a strange sense to guide him as he traversed the valleys. If Song saw the path Wang Lin was taking, he would be astounded, as it was the very route he, an elder in blue robes, had once taken. Wang's demonic armor is not for you to wear in vain. Ahead, the towering mountains loomed, and as time passed, Wang Lin grew closer. About a day later, Wang Lin stopped outside a valley. The place was already very close to the towering mountain range, and crossing the valley would lead him to the foot of the mountain. Looking at the valley ahead, Wang Lin showed a thoughtful expression. This valley seemed somewhat strange. After observing it for a moment, his eyes flashed, and with a hand gesture, a restriction seal appeared. Then, a black line flew out from between his brows, twisting as it turned into a restriction mark and flew forward. The restriction hovered in the void, emitting black light and enveloping the surroundings. Under this black light's coverage, glowing flickers appeared on the grass ahead, faintly revealing a peculiar pattern. This pattern resembled a plum blossom. The moment Wang Lin saw it, his eyes narrowed. Plum Blossom 18 Restrictions. The Plum Blossom 18 restrictions were not ancient, but had been set up just a day ago, clearly by the elder in blue robes. The Plum Blossom 18 restrictions were an extremely high-level restriction formation, derived from the ancient 4 great restrictions, specifically the Annihilation Heart Seal. If Wang Lin had encountered such a restriction before his journey to the Luotian Star Domain, he would have had no way of breaking it. However, after his experiences in the Luotian Star Domain, Wang Lin had inherited the Annihilation Heart Seal from the ancient 4 great restrictions. As such, breaking the Plum Blossom 18 restrictions, which had evolved from the Annihilation Seal, was not difficult. That elder in blue robes left a restriction here, probably for an ambush and a warning. Wang Lin's eyes flickered, and just as he was about to step forward, his footsteps suddenly halted again as he closely examined the Plum Blossom 18 restrictions on the ground. He had a vague feeling that things might not be as simple as they seemed. Expanding his divine sense, Wang Lin carefully scanned every inch of the ground outside the valley. Gradually, his expression grew more serious, especially when he noticed a faint black light at the center of the Plum Blossom 18 restrictions, which seemed hard to see. This reminded him of the Elder in Blue Robe's method of absorbing the Flood Dragon's blood and activating the 9-step seal of heaven. Before, when he saw the Elder's restriction methods, he had felt something unusual but hadn't had the chance to observe closely. Now, with the restriction right in front of him, after some deep thought, Wang Lin's eyes lit up with realization. Using the life force of all beings to create a death seal. This method is very similar to the life and death seal from the ancient 4 great restrictions. Wang Lin murmured to himself, then squatted down. His right hand glowed faintly as he slowly placed it next to a patch of grass, brushing aside some soil. His gaze focused. The roots of the grass had already rotted, with very little life force left. In just a few more hours, the grass would lose all its vitality. At that point, the formation here would fully activate. The Elder in Blue Robes had Song Songzi by her side, so she didn't have time to lay out the full formation. She could only leave this simple restriction to absorb the life force from the plants here. Once the life force is completely absorbed, the formation will activate. Wang Lin murmured, his vigilance toward the Elder in Blue Robes growing. The restriction is only halfway done now, so it's not impossible to break. But instead of breaking the formation, a cold smile appeared on Wang Lin's lips. He stepped back a few paces, formed a gesture with his hands, and pointed forward. The black light that had been enveloping the area trembled as the seal derived from the Annihilation Heart Seal collapsed immediately, scattering into tiny black lights that landed on the grass. I won't break the formation. Instead, I'll leave my mark and restriction on it while it's still incomplete. This way, the Elder in Blue Robes won't even realize I've taken over her spot. Integrating my Annihilation Heart Seal and the Life and Death Seal, the power of these 2 of the ancient 4 great restrictions will heavily injure Song Songzi if he steps in unaware. Wang Lin carefully stepped forward, cautiously crossing the grass and entering the valley, finally letting out a sigh of relief. He glanced around, his gaze falling on the end of the valley ahead. There, the valley connected to the towering mountain range, which appeared extremely steep, with its rugged peaks jutting out. Without pausing, Wang Lin moved like lightning, quickly scaling the mountain. As he climbed, he thought back to the life and death seal and the words of Li Yuan from back then. When the world first began, the rules appeared, and over time, one of them evolved into what we call a restriction. Or, perhaps, a formation. The names are different, but the idea is the same. The world's basic elements were divided into 4 categories, and this division has lasted for ages, guiding the classification of restrictions. Beyond the world's basic elements, there is a level beyond, which we call the void. The void breaks into 4 parts, representing the 4 great forbidden techniques. Aside from the Annihilation Seal and the Life and Death Seal, the ancient 4 great restrictions also include the Ancient Soul Seal and the mysterious and unfathomable Time Seal. Even the restrictions of the immortal realm are mostly derived from these 4 great restrictions and have passed down to the present day. As Wang Lin continued his climb, he fell into deep thought. When I left Luotian back then, Li Yuan once said that if one could master all 4 ancient prohibitions and integrate them, with immense wisdom, they could perceive the void art from the 4 prohibitions. The void, it is the peak of restrictions. However, for countless millennia, since the beginning of the world, when the laws separated into the path of restrictions, no one has ever been able to comprehend the void from the prohibitions. Wang Lin sighed softly, no longer thinking about the matter, but focused all his energy on sensing the path of Tsang Songzi and the others. Half a day passed. Under the 7-colored rays of light in the sky, Wang Lin stood at the highest point of the mountain range. From a distance, it appeared as though he was cloaked in the vibrant colors of the sky, blending into the 7-colored glow, resembling an immortal being. The majestic mountain range, resembling a city wall, curled into a circle, separating this region from the outside world. Thick fog pervaded, obscuring the landscape within. It resembled a vast black ocean, with faint waves stirring. Gazing ahead, Wang Lin could clearly feel that Tsang Songzi was within that fog. His eyes turned cold as he leaped down, heading straight for the mountain's base, moving farther and farther. Tsang Songzi, wearing the divine demon armor, was extremely cautious. With every step he took through the fog, his mind grew more tense. Beside him, the elder in blue robes was surrounded by black mist. The surroundings were eerily quiet, with only the sound of their footsteps echoing slowly. The person surnamed LV should be dead by now. Pang Detsai is skilled in soul-searching, and he must have made progress, especially with that soul subjugation seal. This technique is a divine art of the divine sect. Tsang Songzi calculated the time silently in his heart. He had worked with Pang Detsai many times before, and a single glance was enough for them to understand each other's thoughts. Pang Detsai should be on his way now. Tsang Songzi's eyes flashed imperceptibly. Taoist Tsang Songzi, how far is the place you mentioned? The elder in blue robes, who had been silent the whole time, suddenly spoke. Not far now. It should be just ahead, Tsang Songzi replied. As he spoke, his footsteps suddenly halted. At the same time, the elder in blue robes also stopped, warily gazing ahead. Through the fog ahead, they could vaguely make out a large stone statue. The statue, concealed within the mist, seemed to move, shifting as the fog surged and changed. The two exchanged looks and slowly walked toward it. After a short while, they reached the statue's base and looked up. It was a giant stone, about 100 feet tall, carved into the figure of a man. The man was gazing up at the sky with a thoughtful expression, and a lightning-like mark was etched on his brow. This is... The elder in blue robes was taken aback, staring at the mark on the statue's forehead. Her expression suddenly changed. At that moment, strange voices began to drift from the dense fog, eerie and containing a power that seemed to pierce the soul. The voices came and went erratically, making it impossible to tell where they originated from. Inscribed shadows, bound by the way of heaven, all beings must cross the immeasurable tribulation, leaving behind the deep prison in one single obsession, to follow the path of cultivation. Inscribed shadows, all beings, in the boundless past, resolve this present chaotic world, shed the thoughts of heaven, and seek the way of rebirth, to follow the path of cultivation. Inscribed shadows lock the fate of heaven, sealing the underworld. Those who cannot grasp the true way, remain in the ocean of suffering, forever losing the true way, to follow the path of cultivation. The eerie voices echoed within the mist, slowly merging into the surroundings. Tsang Songzi's face immediately turned pale, and he looked around in fear. The elder in blue robes also gasped, as the strange phrases seemed to linger in her mind, continuously reverberating, causing her essence spirit to tremble and her Tao heart to waver. Who are they? What do these words mean? The elder in blue robes looked at Song Songzi. They are the inscribed shadows. Song Songzi's words had barely left his mouth when suddenly, the mist ahead surged. A phantom figure floated out from within, moving so quickly that it passed between Song Songzi and the elder in blue robes in the blink of an eye. The eerie voices clearly reached their minds. Song Songzi, what exactly are the inscribed shadows? The elder in blue robes' face went pale, the strange words echoing in her mind, and she could barely withstand it. The lost ones have lost their path, wandering in confusion, drifting in this seven-colored realm, endlessly searching. The inscribed shadows possess the Tao realm, but after reading the Tao scripture, their Tao heart shattered, unable to be reforged. They can only drift in this mist, eternally searching through countless millennia. They may already be dead, leaving behind only the Tao souls born from obsession. Song Songzi fell silent, listening to the voices around him, and whispered, Tao scripture. The elder in blue robes' eyes narrowed. Song Songzi lifted his head, his eyes filled with fervor, and slowly said, Yes, the Tao scripture. I had never heard of it before discovering this seven-colored realm, but after entering here, I learned from countless clues that in this world, there exists a Tao scripture. It is said that this scripture was written with the blood of the heavenly Tao. Isn't what they've been talking about the Tao scripture? Elder Zhao gasped. The news she had just heard was simply too shocking. With so many inscribed shadows here, it's clear that the Tao scripture is far from simple. Fellow Taoist Song, you. Elder Zhao paused and looked at Songzi Song. Do you remember the saying among our fellow cultivators, back when we didn't compete for the elixir of life? Songzi Song looked up at the giant stone statue. The one who hears the Tao is born at dawn and dies by dusk. That's enough. Elder Zhao murmured. Let's go. Songzi Song withdrew his gaze and began to move forward swiftly. After a brief pause, Elder Zhao followed behind in silence. As they continued their journey, the intermittent sounds around them gradually grew louder. These sounds were strange and elusive, and once they entered the ears, they seemed to compel the mind to move uncontrollably, as if no longer under their control. It took great mental effort to suppress the effect, but as they got deeper into the mist, the sense of being unable to suppress it grew stronger. Each step felt like bearing the weight of 1,000 mountains, as if their souls were shaken. Songzi Song's face lost its color, but his expression was excited. Together with Elder Zhao, they walked slowly through the mist. Time passed slowly, and before they knew it, 3 days had already gone by. In these 3 days, they had no idea how far they had walked, but on the 4th day, they vaguely saw a small mountain ahead. The mountain was not high, only about 1,000 feet, and was faintly visible through the mist. A layer of black light gradually enveloped the mountain, blocking their path. Songzi Song took a deep breath, turned to Elder Zhao, and said earnestly, cupping his hands in respect, Fellow Taoist Zhao, my abilities and formations are no match for yours. Please help me break this restriction seal. Inside this mountain is the sealed land, filled with the souls of fierce beasts. Once you open it, you can collect their beast souls. Elder Zhao glanced at the black restriction veil and raised her right hand to touch it. After a long time, her expression grew troubled, and she spoke in a deep voice. This is a seal from the time seal, absorbing the power of time rules. The longer it exists, the stronger its power becomes. The age of this seal is beyond my comprehension. If I had known there was such a seal here, I would never have come. Songzi Song smiled faintly, then waved his right hand. A storage rift appeared in front of him, and from it, he pulled out an item. It was a black cone-shaped object, with spiral markings on it. As soon as it was taken out, a wave of pressure spread out. Do you recognize this item, fellow Taoist Zhao? Songzi Song looked at her. Elder Zhao stared at the cone, her eyes glowing with a strange light. After examining it for a long time, she slowly said, an ancient treasure, the forbidden seal-breaking cone. Fellow Taoist Zhao, as expected of a master of formations, you've seen this item before. With your formation abilities, how confident are you in breaking this seal? Elder Zhao remained silent for a moment before replying. How many of these forbidden seal-breaking cones do you have? 4, Songzi Song answered. For a short-term time seal, 4 cones would be enough. But this seal has existed for far too long. I only have a 10% chance of breaking it. Elder Zhao shook her head. Songzi Song pondered for a while, then waved his hand again, pulling out another item from his storage dimension. It was a small black wooden block, about the size of a palm. As soon as it appeared, an indescribable powerful aura surged out, sweeping through the surroundings, stirring the mist and forming a vortex about 10 feet in diameter that began to slowly rotate. Elder Zhao's eyes narrowed sharply as she gazed at the blackwood. She took a deep breath and said slowly, "A treasure of the void nirvana? With this, what's your confidence level?" Song Song didn't explain further, but spoke slowly. 40%. With the help of the soul subjugation seal, it could go up to 50. But Elder Zhao withdrew her gaze and, after a moment of calculation, spoke again. Song Song hesitated briefly, then pulled out yet another item from his storage dimension. This time, it was a dazzling crystal, within which what seemed like fresh blood was slowly flowing. As soon as the item appeared, a destructive aura erupted from it, sweeping through the area. With this item added, it should be enough, right? Songzi Song looked at Elder Zhao. "Fellow Taoist Songzi, you are indeed generous. You brought out 2 treasures of the void nirvana, and this crystal seems much more formidable than the previous item. With these 3 items, I have a 70% chance." Elder Zhao remained silent for a moment, then hoarsely added, 70%? That's enough. Songzi Song waved his sleeve, and the 4 forbidden seal-breaking cones flew toward Elder Zhao. Songzi Song had come fully prepared for this journey. Had it not been for his lack of proficiency in formations compared to Elder Zhao, he would have handled it himself long ago. "If you need me to use a magical artifact, just speak, fellow Taoist Zhao." Elder Zhao did not waste time with words. She formed a seal with her hands, and a formation appeared. At the same time, black gas swirled around her, moving with the hand seals. With a flick of her finger, she sent one of the forbidden seal-breaking cones toward the restriction veil. The sound of booming echoes reverberated as the restriction seal cast by the elder in blue robes instantly landed on the broken restriction spike. Immediately, black mist fused into it, and the broken restriction spike suddenly flashed with a dense black light. A terrifying aura that could break through the heavens and shatter all seals spread from it. The elder in blue robe's eyes flickered, and she bit the tip of her tongue, causing a blood arrow to fall onto the broken restriction spike. The spike trembled instantly and shot up, heading straight toward the restriction veil in front. As it neared, the black barrier began to twist. A surge of the power of time erupted, hitting the broken restriction spike. The spike immediately quivered, and there were faint signs of disintegration. "Break," the elder in blue robes whispered sharply. A flash of blood light erupted from the broken restriction spike, and large amounts of black mist burst out, moving with the speed of lightning. It drilled into one corner of the barrier, creating a deep indentation as it quickly dissipated. At the same time, more black mist emanated from the elder's body, quickly merging into a second broken restriction spike. She controlled it with a swift motion, sending it straight toward the barrier, and it nailed another section with lightning speed. The remaining 2 broken restriction spikes flew out one after another and were all nailed down. The moment all 4 spikes landed, a tremendous rumbling noise came from the restriction veil. Countless ripples twisted across the barrier's surface, but now, with the appearance of the 4 spikes, it was as though 4 massive stones had been thrown into a vibrating lake, disturbing the balance and causing waves to ripple in different directions. In that instant, the elder in blue robes formed hand seals and pressed her brow hard. A burst of black mist exploded from her, causing the deep wrinkles across her body to vanish, transforming her back into a beautiful woman in her 40s. A massive amount of black mist surged toward the barrier. As the ripples on its surface became chaotic, it landed directly at the center, forming a black vortex that collided repeatedly with the restriction veil. The sound of the violent impact shook the heavens and the earth. "Blackwood." The beautiful woman's eyes flashed as she spoke quickly. Without hesitation, Songzi Song threw a black wooden block, and just as it neared the black vortex, he raised his hand and pointed forward. The wooden block suddenly trembled, and a force capable of destroying the heavens radiated from it, causing it to immediately collapse. The explosion echoed across the land, pushing the surrounding mist outward. The wooden block shattered into countless splinters, creating an unimaginable shockwave. It seemed as if it would scatter, but just then, the elder in blue robes leapt into the air, appearing above the shockwave. With hand seals in the air, countless seals appeared around her, controlling the collapsing destructive force, directing it straight toward the lower barrier. The rumbling continued, making the earth tremble. The restriction veil quivered violently, its ripples multiplying, but there was no damage. A rebound force suddenly erupted, causing the first broken restriction spike to shatter. The elder's expression changed, but before she could speak, Songzi Song had already thrown a crystal stone, which exploded just as it neared the restriction veil. This crystal stone contained unimaginable power. After exploding, it transformed into a massive storm that swept across the area. The beautiful woman in blue gritted her teeth, formed another hand seal on her brow, and immediately more black mist poured out from her body. Her appearance quickly changed, turning into a stunning woman of about 20 years old. The black mist around her body swirled under her control, forming seals that merged with the force of the crystal stone's collapse. Guided by her power, they all surged toward the restriction veil. The booming noises resounded once again, and the barrier emitted cracking sounds. A fissure appeared, but as soon as it opened, it quickly began to close, almost repairing itself completely. Song gritted his teeth in frustration and quickly took out another item from his storage space. It was a jade pendant, but it radiated the aura of a true next-stage Nirvana artifact. Song was heartbroken. The previous two items were not true next-stage Nirvana artifacts but contained a faint aura of such power. While their destruction pained him, he could accept it. However, the item he had just taken out was a genuine next-stage Nirvana artifact, and if it was destroyed, it would tear at his very soul. At this moment, the beautiful woman in blue stared in disbelief, gasping. She could not fathom how many next-stage Nirvana artifacts Song possessed. These artifacts were exceedingly rare, yet he was willing to destroy 3 of them to break the barrier. Just one of them would be enough to cause a frenzy if sold. Their value was beyond imagination. Even beast souls could be exchanged for anything one desired. Shatter. Song gritted his teeth and roared, putting everything on the line. The jade pendant shot straight for the crack in the barrier. In an instant, it exploded, unleashing a force far beyond that of the previous 2 artifacts, creating a storm that swept over the mist for miles. The cracking noises continued. The restriction veil had not yet shattered, but the fissure was now 10 meters wide. Though it still tried to heal, its recovery slowed dramatically. Song's body swayed as he ignored the woman in blue robes and headed straight for the rift. The woman's gaze flickered, and she too sped toward the rift, diving in. Soon after, a long rainbow pierced through the mist from a distance, transforming into the figure of Wang. He glanced at the rift but did not enter immediately. Instead, he quickly set up numerous restriction seals outside before charging forward and stepping into the rift.